Hello again and welcome back. My name's Annie and this is my creative detour. Welcome to all of my new viewers and hello to all my new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing and I hope you enjoy watching all the things I create on the channel. Hi to all of my regulars. Thanks for always coming back and thank you so much for the lovely comments lately. They've been wonderful. Today we're going on with our next two prompts in the July Junk Journal Challenge, and today's prompts are found in the forest and bird. I've actually got some things from the forest, well, from the Australian bush anyway, and I'll show you what I've got. I've collected some gum leaves and some gum nuts. Here we go. Got quite a few gum nuts here. Possibly we'll put some of these nice twigs in that have got little gum nuts on them. And I also have two spectacular black cockatoos because the prompt is also bird. This one here is the yellow-tailed black cockatoo and he's got beautiful red eyes. And then this one is the short-billed black cockatoo. So there's our two chaps. They're going to be on the page somewhere. And I also pulled out this page. I love these geometric sketchy lines here, and this is how we usually do some layouts. And when I was doing architectural illustration, we would draw the trees like this in the plan view. So I'm quite drawn to this, and I like the fact that it's got an elevation here showing the planting suggestion, and then the plan view. So I'm going to use this. I may drop a little bit of colour into the negative space. I'm not going to put any colour render on the trees or the shrubs, but I may put a little bit into the negative space. And I got that out of Birdscaping Your Garden by George Adams. So it's a lovely book actually. It's got quite a lot of beautiful illustrations of Australian birds and the vegetation and habitat that they live in. So I've actually got two copies of these. One I don't cut up and then one I do. So that's the plan. I am going to put the page together, but how I'll start is I'm going to put a little bit of watercolour onto this. So I'll pop the video to some nice music and you can watch me watercolour and then we'll come back and put the page together. So I'll see you back here very soon. Okay, I'm back. Hopefully you enjoyed that music. And I've done a little bit of watercolour. You can see that I've done it in the negative space. So I've done the sky and the background. And then in the plan view, I've left all of the close-up dominant plants and then done the background of that. So I have got our heroes here. And we're going to pop those in the foreground over those plan views of the trees. And I actually have a twig and I like the look of the twig. You can see that our cockatoos are actually sitting on this little branch here, and I think I'm going to replace that branch with this branch and stick that on with a little bit of hot glue. I'm okay about it being a little bit proud and having dimension, and eventually over time it will become a little bit more brittle and it might drop off and break, but that's okay. I'm fine with the journal aging and changing over time. And I have another twig. I'm not sure about this one, but I have this branch here that I like the twist on it with the gum leaves on it. So I think that I've put my hot glue gun on, and I'm going to put some glue on these leaves and glue them on, but I think I need to put my birds on first. So let's do that. All right, I've got those on. We'll put some glue on the back of these gum leaves. So obviously my gum leaves are not bright green and alive because I picked them off the ground. There was a big branch that had fallen in a storm, and it had quite a few branches that had the gum leaves still attached to it. We have those ones down. Now let's find this twig. Put on. Yes, I like that there. Balances out the composition. We've got something here, we'll have something over here now. This could be tricky. Want a small strip of glue along that twig. I like that this one here, this gum nut's got a little bit of bird poop on it. I know that sounds weird, but it just looks so authentic, doesn't it? With this little dollop here of white bird poop. And I like that this cockatoo is actually munching on a gum nut that's identical to these gum nuts. There we go. That's what's little things that are floating my boat today. All right, let's put a little bit of twig on this bit over here. Yes, they're looking good, aren't they? Okay, and we have a few gum nuts. Oh, these two are joined together. They're nice. Let's do those two. And you're probably thinking to yourself, Annie, how's this going to fit in your journal? Well, the fortunate thing about my journal is that I punch holes in my pages. So my journal can be as thick or thin as I like it to be. So I love doing three-dimensional compositions. Because I don't know how much I'm going to need with thickness, that's one of the reasons why I do the style of journal, so that I can just keep adding to it and not worry about how chunky it's getting. I'm going to let that glue dry, and then we're going to find a sentiment. I'm going to put some shadows on around these birds because at the moment they're not really grounded. They're kind of just floating in space. So let's do that. I'm going to put a little bit of ink on this page because the vegetation is very white. And the page that's opposite, you can see, is quite aged. I don't want it to take away from that brightness too much, but I do want to tone it down a bit. So let's just ink up a bit so that the pages work together a little bit better than what they are. And then I'll know how much shadowing to put onto my birds as well. Okay, now we need our prompt, don't we? So let's cut our prompt down. Okay, we have found in the forest. We mostly just call it the bush, but we do have forests. We have state forests here. A long time ago, we used to go camping in some of the state forests. We particularly liked going up to Kenilworth State Forest, which is probably about 3 hours northwest of Brisbane, for those locals that are watching. Now, where am I going to pop this? I have a sentiment that I'd like to use. So let's have a little look at that. Now, I have this sentiment that says, what seems ordinary is often extraordinary. Now, I'm pulling that out because I'm wanting to play a little bit off of what I talked about on this page. I'm kind of stuck on noticing the wondrous things at the moment of ordinary life. Now, most afternoons we have a flock of cockatoos that fly past the top of our house, and they roost in quite a lot of the big gum trees that are around our suburb. Now, they're not black cockatoos, they're actually sulphur-crested white cockatoos, but there would be possibly 100, maybe 150, I'm not sure, maybe even 200, but it's a lot, that fly every afternoon past our house. They're so loud, but they are magnificent. So there we go. What seems ordinary is often extraordinary. Okay, I'm liking that there, which then leaves this to go down here. Let's do that. We'll grunge this up a little bit. Let's put a few shadows on these birds. I'm actually going to use my pit pens. So let's do that. I'm just going to put a few shadows on them. Now, when I'm looking at this, I can kind of see that this bird here has a little bit of light on its back, and this one over here has a little bit of light on its shoulder. So that indicates to me just subtly that the light source is coming from this direction. So I'm going to put my shadows around the left-hand side of the bird and down underneath the bottom. And I'm going to blend it just with some cotton buds. Okay, I put some grey around the bird and it wasn't really popping enough for a shadow, so I'm trying some brown just around these leaves. So see how I'm just lifting up the leaf and putting a little bit of marker underneath the edge and spreading it out, blending it out. So it's giving a little bit of a shadow. Let's put a little bit of line work around this sentiment. Okay, I'm going to put on some white splatters and put some holes in it and put it in the journal, and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, I've got it sitting in the journal with the other page, and that's what they'll look like together. And I'm happy with how it's turned out. They're both very cute, those cockatoos, and I love the sentiment. It says, what seems ordinary is often extraordinary. And I've also put the prompts down here: found in the forest or the Australian bush, and birds. So there we go. Let me bring it up and I'll show you the page. So we have lots of texture on this page with some gum leaves and some gum nuts. And I've replaced the branch that the two birds were sitting on with a real branch with some gum nuts. And this one here, he's nibbling on a gum nut in the picture. And I just did some watercolor in the background and a little bit of ink blending and some line work. So thank you for joining me today. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. That'd be wonderful. And go and check out all of the other people that are participating in the challenge. The challenge is called July Junk Journal Challenge. And if you go to the hashtag JJJC2025, you'll be able to find a lot of other people that are participating in it. and it's run by Lee from Lee Creates at Lee Art and Junk Journal Wonderland. And a link for her introductory video is down below in my description if you'd like to check it out. Now, I will see you next Monday, actually, for the next two prompts, which are tea bag and old person. I've been saving my tea bags over the last few weeks, so I've got quite a few. I'll see what I can come up with. All right, thanks again, and I'll see you all very soon with another project. Bye for now.